Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and welcome back to another Legacy vs. Original comparison video. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the 3 versions of Kai's Fire Dragon that have been released. We have the original that came in the Fire Temple set back in 2011, we have the Legacy 4+ Remake that came in the Kai's Fire Dragon set in 2020, and then finally we have the all-new Legacy Fire Dragon Attack set from 2021. I've done a comparison of just these two before, but as this guy's new and he's a lot more significant than the 4+ one was, I thought I should just get them all back in here and review them all at once. If you guys are new to this video series, I don't take a look at minifigures or side builds in it. I do have full reviews of these two sets up on the channel if you guys want to go check those out, and I don't have a review of the Fire Temple up, but I probably will make one at some point. But this video is just going to be going over the dragons themselves and the differences between them. So with all that being said, let's get started. So we'll start with the head and necks of the dragons. The original uses this large rubber piece for the head and then another rubber piece for the jaw. And then in his mouth he has a ball shooter. These I believe were originally introduced with Bionicle, but they were reused here. And the functionality with them was if you squeezed in on the dragon's head, the ball would shoot out. It was a pretty fun play feature that I personally liked playing with a lot as a kid, but yeah, you just squeeze down like this, and you can hit a target in the distance. The head itself though is a mixture of bright orange and dark red, with black printing on it for the eye, and then a gray lower jaw with orange printing on it. That entire head connects to a large ball joint socket right here, which connects into a ball joint. And despite this being very squeaky, because it's very old, you can move that in quite a few different ways. You can also see there's chains attached to the head, and this goes into this little seating area for Kai right here. And this is a very simple build, just 4 studs for Kai to sit on. The head of the 4+ Dragon uses an all-new hard plastic piece designed to be in the same shape as the original. This time around though, it's in LEGO's regular brighter red color, and then it has bright orange printing on it as well as a little bit of black. The eye has a little more personality too, you can see it actually has white in the eye. And then the lower jaw matches with that headpiece, and it's also in that bright red color instead of the gray like the original had. And then there's white printing for the teeth and orange printing for just these little tufts of hair at the bottom. No neck or anything on this guy or ball joint or anything, you can just turn his head back and forth ever so slightly. And instead of a ball shooter, he has this little bit of fire coming out of his mouth. And unlike the original, you can also hinge his mouth open if you want. So with his mouth open, the fire does look a little bit weird, but the ability to open his mouth gives him a little bit more personality. Yeah, and as I said, no neck on this guy, so no seating area on the neck either. And then finally we move to the all-new full-size Legacy Fire Dragon. This guy uses the same exact pieces as the 4+ Dragon, just in different colors and with different printing. You can see the top part of his head is dark red, just like the original dragon, and he also has a little bit of yellow in his eye for a bit of color. But unlike the other 2 dragons, he doesn't have any yellow or orange other than the eye, all throughout the entire head. Instead, those orange streaks were replaced by black coals, which I think look much better and feel far more fiery. Same bottom jaw as the 4+ Dragon too, except again it's in a different color. This time the jaw itself is bright orange, while the little tufts of hair at the bottom are dark red. And once again, as this is the same piece, it can hinge open, but there's no fire piece inside, so it looks a little bit better when he's screaming. However, because there's no fire piece inside, when the mouth is closed, it seems very, very empty. These pieces were clearly designed to have a stud shooter or a fire piece coming out, so seeing them without either of those here is a little bit strange. You could very easily modify this guy to put a fire piece in there, but by default he doesn't have one, so his mouth just feels very hollow. It's a bit strange. Next, he has more neck joints than the other 2 dragons combined. He has a total of 2 here, so his head connects to his mini neck joint right here, which is on a mini ball joint. And then that also connects on a mini ball joint to this larger neck joint right here. This is not on a ball joint, it's just on a rigid hinge, so you can just turn this entire thing down or turn it entirely up. Just like on the original dragon, there's a little seating area on the neck. However, I much prefer this one, because number one, it just looks nicer. You can see there's a little flag out the back, a little robot arm. The entire seat just seems more like a saddle than like a chair. But the cool part about this is, this entire thing can just be removed. It only connects with 2 clips and it's meant to come off, so this way you can have a more wild looking fire dragon if you want. With the original, you were just kind of stuck to having it tamed, but yeah, with this one you can take the saddle on or off to decide whether or not you want Kai to be riding it, or if you just want it to be out in nature by itself. So yeah, in terms of heads, this one for sure wins. It looks nicer, it has more joints, it has more posability options, for sure the best here. My only complaint with it is the gap in the mouth, but that can be fixed very easily. You can just have a stud shooter in there, or a piece of fire like the 4+ Dragon has. Next, I'll take a look at the bodies of each of the dragons. First, on the original, it's not too complex. It uses a few slope pieces to create somewhat of an organic texture, but back when this set came out back in 2011, the number of slope pieces was very limited, so creating a very organic shape was definitely very tough to do. So it's fine for what it is, but there's nothing exceptional going on here. He also has a flag coming out of his back, which is on a hinge, so you can move it up or down. And the flag just has these characters on it, which are not written in the Ninjago language, because this was before the Ninjago language existed. And that just has a golden spike coming out the top. On the side of the body, there's a streak of regular orange, and then the stomach on the bottom is a mixture of bright orange and just regular yellow. Again, very simple, just a few slope pieces, not much going on there. Moving next to the body of the 4+ Dragon, this one is very simple, very flat, lots of room to display figures if you want. This is where the seat is on this dragon right here, so you can sit Kai right there, but there's also studs here, here, and here, so you can stand more figures if you want. Underneath that is just one solid piece, there's Technic holes right here, which don't look good, but it's all just in this dark red color. And then on the all-new Legacy Dragon, they've kind of perfected like this organic look for the body. He has these large black spikes coming out, and just the shaping around it, like the way this slopes down, feels a lot more natural and organic. This feels a lot more like an actual creature than the original Fire Dragon does. You can see it uses a mixture of different types of slope pieces, a mixture of black, dark red, and regular red. And then there's a few touches of bright orange, and more of that comes out when you get to the underside. You can see the body of the dragon is bulkier at the front and thinner at the back. Yeah, this genuinely just looks spectacular. I'm so impressed by like how organic this looks. And then here's a look at the underside of the dragon. Just like the original, it uses a lot of bright orange. But unlike the original, this looks a heck of a lot nicer. You can see he has these large chest muscles at the top that allow him to like flap his wings well. And then they use a lot of slope pieces to create like the impression of scales, but also converging into a smaller area at the bottom, because that's where the torso thins out. Yeah, once again, this looks so much better than the original. The original's chest just used like 3 parts and it really wasn't meant to be seen. This was designed with the intent of like this model being displayed with this showing, and this looks incredible. It feels so complete. I love how this looks. Moving next to the wings, you can see the original uses 4 like bright orange blade pieces on each wing, and if you push it on the hands, the wings can actually open up. I think these wings actually still hold up fairly decent today. Obviously, other dragons go for different styles of wings, including the legacy version of this dragon. But there are dragons that still do like bladed wings like this today, and compared to those, this still is pretty good. My one main complaint with these are these spikes coming out of the front right here. These are very easy to knock off. I have them fall off all the time when I'm filming this review, and when I played with this set a lot as a kid. I'm honestly kind of shocked that I still have them all today because they're so easy to just accidentally knock off. Each of the individual wings is on a rigid Technic joint, so you can rotate that 360 degrees if you want, and you can also move the entire wing up or down. So it's not too difficult to make the dragon flap its wings if you want. And then at the end of the wing, the dragon has a little 3-fingered claw, and each of those fingers can be moved individually if you want. The 4+ dragon uses very simple wings. They're just a mini ball joint, so they can be rotated however you want, but there's not much else you can do with them. You can flap them up and down a little bit if you want, and it uses blades on the end, sort of like the original does, but these are on hinges, so these can actually be hinged up or down if you want. So you can create some somewhat interesting looks with those, but as a whole, yeah, these aren't that great. And then here's the Legacy Dragon with its wings all spread out. These are definitely a lot different than the other two. Right off the bat, they're cloth instead of plastic, which is what the other two used. But also the colors are completely different. The other two used a lot of bright orange, this uses a lot of regular orange, and then also red, dark red, and black printed onto it. While I think the other color scheme's more fun, this looks a lot cooler, and definitely makes the Fire Dragon feel a lot more ominous. The wings also have little holes in them, so you can see like light shines through them. And the actual main structure of the wing is actually more of an arm than the other two had. The other two mostly just had wings with claws on them, but the Legacy Fire Dragon actually has a proper arm build with a wing coming off of the arm. As such, these arms are a lot heavier than the original dragon's wings were, so you can't actually stand this guy up with his wings out like you could on the original. Instead, if you want to have the wings like sprawled out like this, you have to either be holding him up in the air or have the feet like sprawled out on the ground like this. Which sounds like a negative, but actually I don't mind that, because it makes it more realistic. Obviously dragons aren't real, but if they were real, like if they had these huge massive wings and these tiny little legs, it wouldn't make sense for them just to be able to stand there and just have both of their wings in the air at all times. Like no, these two really shouldn't be in the air unless they're like actively flapping them to fly. So I feel like the fact that it needs to be touching the ground gives it an even more bestial look. These wings can also fold up like the original could, though they fold up a lot better, so you can see you fold them up just like that, and the cloth pieces just converge at the back. Here's the actual arm build up a lot closer. You can see there's a lot more detail here. 2 stickered pieces with like a black hole design on them. Lots of detailing around the sides, and they even use that bright orange on the underside. And just like on the original, these are on rigid Technic joints, so you can move them up, move them down, move them forward, move them back. A very wide range of motion with these. And then the claw at the end, instead of like being built onto the wing itself, is actually connected with a ball joint at the end right here. So this can be moved independently too, so you can rotate this down, rotate it up. And once again, there is 3 fingers, but there's 2 at the front and 1 at the back instead of just 3 at the front. So this creates like a more realistic foot for the dragon. Moving next to the legs of the dragon, the original's legs are nothing all too special. They just connect on some Technic pieces. I believe these claw pieces are originally from Bionicle. A little bit of yellow and dark red detailing on them, and they're also connected with a rigid Technic joint. You can move them out, move them in, move them forward, move them back. Moving next to the 4+ dragon, you can see these are literally just one piece. They are Jurassic World Velociraptor legs, just recolored in red with some red scales on them, and then the actual nails at the bottom are black. I think these look fine as pieces, but don't fit the overall blockiness of the dragon as a whole, and they're not sturdy enough. This dragon will slowly fall over if he's standing up, as you can see right here. Like, he just slowly tips over, even if you have him leaned back. They're too far back in the middle and just don't hold the dragon up properly. Yeah, not a huge fan of these ones. And then we take a look at the legs of the Legacy version, and in terms of posability, they're very similar to the original. The feet themselves can't move at all, but the legs are on a rigid Technic joint, which means you can flip them out, you can turn them around. But the difference is these legs are far more detailed. Lots of different intricate parts used here to create like a more organic shape. And then this time around, the feet are brick built rather than using a Bionicle piece. So you can see they have 3 individual toes at the front, which can all be moved. And then finally we move to the tails of the dragons. First, here's the original Fire Dragon's tail. And it's very simple. It just uses 3 of these yellow hinged pieces, some dark red cheese slips on top of that for scales, and then at the end there's another hinged piece with a piece of fire coming out. The way the hinges connect to the body actually allow the entire tail to be rotated if you want, which is pretty cool. And of course, as I said, they're hinges, so you can hinge them up. And like each individual section can be posed on its own. The 4+ dragon uses a very similar hinge system, this time only with 2 joints. You have this black joint right here with a red scale coming off, and then you have a bright orange blade at the back, which is the same piece used for the wings on this guy. And of course you can rotate them down, rotate them up. And then finally moving to the Legacy Dragon, this guy's tail is very different from the other 2. He uses a ball joint system. He keeps the bright orange at the bottom, the dark red on the top. Unfortunately, there's gray in the middle because that's the color that the ball joints are locked into. That's a little disappointing. It definitely would have looked better if those were red. But it's not a huge deal, and the gray still looks fine enough. Black spikes going up the back of the tail. And then at the very end, it uses these 2 bright orange blade pieces. As these are on mini ball joints, it allows you to get far more organic motion with this. I know I use the word organic a lot when describing the Legacy Fire Dragon, but it's true. This is a very organic looking build. The other 2 feel a lot more rigid, but this feels like an actual creature, and I think they designed it so well. The only thing is, I'm not sure how I feel about the tip of the tail. The bright orange blade pieces are cool, but I kinda liked the fire on the original, so I almost would have preferred if they kept the fire here to keep like the look of the fire dragon. But this is a fine alternative, and you can very easily customize that if you wanted to. But I will give the original a point for that I think the fire is more fun than having these blades out the back. So that was all 3 versions of Kai's Fire Dragon that have been released. As a whole, if it wasn't clear, in my opinion, the new one is by far the best one. The original has a lot of charm to it, but unfortunately just doesn't hold up at all today. I think the wings are the only part of that build that still, like, feel quality, but the rest of it just feels very dated. It has a charm to it for sure, and it was great for 2011, but the Legacy version is such a huge upgrade. I'm genuinely so impressed by that set. The Legacy Fire Dragon is one of my favorite sets of this year and one of the best Ninjago dragons of all time. Yeah, it's kind of hard to hold up to him, especially when you were released 10 years earlier, but I think it's so cool to see how different these 2 builds are, and I really love both of them for what they are. And then of course, can't forget the guy in the middle. I don't think he's very good, honestly. Go check out my full review of him if you're curious for more thoughts on him. But in short, even for the young target audience, there's much better 4+ sets out there. This guy's just too fragile and not that great. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Tell me which of these 3 fire dragons is your favorite, and like which specific aspects you would like from each one. If you enjoyed this video, please press like and subscribe if you're new. I do LEGO and Ninjago videos like this every single day, so if you subscribe, you'll be the first to see them. And go check out the Legacy vs. Original playlist. We have more videos just like this and even more coming soon. But thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!